Alright guys, so here we are for our next track review, racing with Turkey and Gator again. But this track review will be of a Supercross, like I said, and this is St. Bernard, which was made by Pancake Muffin. And Pancake, as a forger, I didn't really comment on the forger last video because I wasn't sure who it was, but I'll put it in the description of that video. But this one I know is made by Pancake, and that right there is the first thing I wanted to talk about on this track, the whoops. I just don't understand why it's so hard. It's going to be a rant right here. I just don't understand why it's so hard for forgers to make consistent whoops. I don't get it. Like, when we did the race here, it's impossible to race against these guys with their lag, but when we did the race here, the whoops, they flipped people at least, it was several times, at least 10 times, I would say. Honestly, somebody flipped on those whoops. And that's ridiculous. You can't have a Supercross track with whoops that'll flip you. I mean, the whoops are one of the most critical parts of the frickin' track. And, like, whoops are simple. Okay? They're simple. They're just there to bounce you. I mean, they don't really serve any purpose than to mix up the track a little bit. So, why do they flip you? Why can't people make consistent whoops that don't flip you? And when I said I was going to make my comments on the forger, that's actually one of the things that I had to say about Pancake Muffin. I have seen bad whoops, and was Shibuya made by Pancake? Guys? I think so, right? I'm pretty sure we'll check it out, but I think Shibuya was also made by Pancake, and that track also has very inconsistent whoops. Like, they're decent until the last whoop. It always flips you. But sorry, that was probably like a big rant right there. But seriously though, it just ticks me off that Supercross forgers cannot make consistent whoops. But anyways, now that we're off the whoops, this track has a lot of pros and it has a lot of cons. One of the cons, you guys guessed it, is the whoops. I mean, these whoops right here are fine, but those whoops in that other section that I are talking about are horrible, and they flip you a ton, and whoops should never flip you. It's simple as that. Whoops should never flip you. Pros to this track, I like that it has a couple split sections. I was probably the only person early on in Halo 4 demanding for more tracks to have, and there's Turkey flipping on the whoops again. I was one of the people early on demanding for more tracks, more Supercross tracks to have split sections, because it frustrates me that on so many Supercross tracks you cannot run the inside. There's way too many Supercross tracks on Halo 4 that are just one-line tracks, because if you take the inside, you're going to case the jump and potentially flip. And that's, I think, way too many Supercross tracks are like that. But this track is really good because it doesn't have too many large jumps, and the ones that it does have, there's often a split section there. So, and I've been demanding since day one for more Supercross tracks to have split sections so the inside can actually survive. And this track does a very good job at that, so I definitely got to give it bonus points for that. Now this track, in terms of raceability, is actually pretty good. We had a photo finish here when we raced here in the CRL. There was a lot of good battles going on, and overall it was pretty much, look at that, wrecking on the whoops. Overall, it was a very good race, and we could not tell who was going to win until it ended. I mean, it was just a constant shake-up. We expected Turkey to win. We expected Revenge to win, and then middle way, it seemed like Turkey was going to win. Then, towards the end, it seemed like Gator was going to win. Then it seemed like Redneck was going to win, and then it went back to Gator when he finally won. So, I'm not paying attention. I'm too busy talking, messing up on the sections. But it was just a really good shake-up. So in terms of raceability, this is one of the better Supercross tracks. And I feel like part of that has to do with the split sections. But anyways, this track, other things that I have to say about it in terms of how fun it is, I think it's a very fun track, because it's not, a lot of Supercross tracks, in my opinion, are too technical to the point where the only time you're going to pass somebody is if they mess up. And I really hate that. I like the days on Reach where tracks were just technical enough where, you know, if you were the fast guy, you'd pass somebody. But it seems like on 4, there's a lot of tracks where they're so technical that the only way you're going to pass somebody is if they wreck, and I don't like that. But this track's different. It's not that technical, and it seems that if you're faster than somebody, you'll definitely gain fast. So that's a definite pro. I like the jumps on this track. The jumps there's a very good variety of jumps. Going over variety again. There's a very good variety of jumps, and overall every single section is different on this track. I feel like some Supercross tracks are, some of their sections are very, sorry Turkey, some of their sections are very similar, and it gets kind of boring, but this track, every section seems to have its own personality, and I really like that, and there's a lot of jumps that are very different. Something that I'm going to go over when I'm reviewing Supercross tracks is inconsistency or consistency, and overall this track, unfortunately, consistency is kind of a con. I mean, for most of the jumps, consistency is fine, except the downhill, which I'll point out that jump sometimes is a little inconsistent, but I'm sure if you take it the right way, it'll be okay. Whoa. But, there is a problem with consistency, obviously, in the whoops. I don't really have to talk about that anymore. There are some jumps where you can take the berm and you still won't make it sometimes. Very, very rare, but sometimes. And that I don't really like. That jump right there, you case a lot, so... But I'm sure you have to take it the right way. But still, you case that jump a lot, so... Not my favorite one. These jumps, like... Pretty much, I think every single part of this track is very consistent, except for the whoops. Sometimes the downhill right here, that one, the step down, sometimes that's pretty inconsistent. But besides that and the whoops, it's a very consistent track. Next up, we're going over aesthetics. This track, like most Supercrosses, there isn't really much to the aesthetics. But it does have a couple things here and there that I like, and it does a better job than like Caesar's Palace. Even though it was a GP, I think this track does a better job at aesthetics than it. So this track's decent. There's really not much to look at all, but there's still a little bit of stuff. So overall, we went through how fun the track is, and I found that this track is really fun to run because of the variety. Went over variety; it has a good variety. Aesthetics, as several tracks that I've reviewed so far, is lacking. Raceability is good here. This is a very good track for good battles. I absolutely think that if you want to have good battles with your friends, go to this track. This would be a good one. Consistency. Already went over that. It's you know, it's consistent for the most part. It's consistent for the most part. But we pretty much went over everything, and this is a really, really long review because I had a lot to talk about, like not just about the track, but about Supercross forging in general. And I wanted to let my whoop rant out early on before it goes, so that way I don't have to make a rant about whoops in almost every single Supercross review. But anyways, this video is dragging on. This is my longest review yet, so I really got to bring it to a close. St. Bernard, look at this. That just summed up the review right there. Alright, so it's time to get a final verdict on this track, since this is the longest review I've had yet, and we really need to bring it to a close. St. Bernard, it's a very good track. It has a lot of pros, but there are some things, mainly the whoops, make me a little negative towards it. But there are some things that really just hold this track down from being a really good Supercross. Overall, not the best Supercross I've seen, but it's good. I think I'd give it an 8.6. It's not as good as some of the other Supercrosses I've seen. It's definitely not deserving of a 9, but, you know, it's a good track. And it's definitely not the worst Supercross I've seen. There's going to be some really bad Supercross tracks that I'm going to review. You guys will see those later on. But this is one of the better ones, so I liked it. So St. Bernard, made by Pancake Muffin. I'd say this is one of Pancake's. I'm not really too much of a fan of him when it comes to forging. I don't really like many of his tracks, but I really do like this one. This one sort of stands out of all his tracks, so I'd definitely give it a download.